looking at.
They're looking through you.
Yeah, at the prompter,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine.
Right.
I'm just deathly afraid to be that person where people don't take me at face value
Right.
because it's not my own
Well,
words.
even if they just had some cards, like with the SB logo on the back, and they could flip through the cards, look down, look
Yeah.
up, like reference some bullet points,
Yeah.
I think that would be a little stronger.
And God bless Matt Foster. I do those things at Channel 7
Mm-hmm.
with, every Tuesday. I don't even know what days they air, but for the Big Red Zone. And I started with a guy by the name of Thor Tripp. He's since moved on. It was very free flowing, very, hey, let's give some ideas. Then it kind of tightened up a little. Hey, let's go over some film clips. Let's do this. Then it's like, hey, we won't both be on camera. We'll just have you on camera. So Matt's the third. So I went with the original guy, Thor. Then I went with Andy,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm with Matt. And Matt kind of thinks outside the box, and so he's like, hey, let's just have you on camera. We'll have a couple of points, and we'll go with the prompter. After about 2 times with the teleprompter, he's like, I mean, you could kind of just get a general idea. And I was like, thank you. 'Cause I'm telling you, like, I'm just not good.
Yeah.
I'm super Ron Burgundy. Like it takes a time. You watch you watch some of these guys and gals that do what they do. Sometimes they have to have the information fed to them because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there are statistics or graphics or the stories are so live and fresh. There's no way like you could just like ad lib that deal. And I watch him all the time. He looks like a guy that has retained every ounce of that information before he utters a word. Like he's just that good with it, right? I don't. So I think when these athletes have to do it, and the whole Carmelo Anthony thing, which is the one that is sticking with me because I'm a huge. It's weird. You're like, man, DB, who are a couple guys you like that don't really fit your
Personality.
yeah?
And Carmelo's one of them.
Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony has been a favorite of mine for 22 years. 21 years.
Is that because of his game or because of who he is as a person?
I love his story. Boeheim got me started in recruiting Melo and how nobody white would go to that part of the projects, and he wanted to go door to door, and he knocked on his mom's door. And believe me, I'm not a Boeheim guy. Like, I'm not a Boeheim guy at all. But that got me interested because Melo's not one of those. He's not one of those fake, poor, tough guys. Like, Melo's a dude that has some conviction. So then I just started to kind of vibe. I was just kind of closing out my professional sports endeavors in early 2000s, right? I tried for 4 or 5 years. So I started to get back into watching television again because I missed some.
You went off the grid?
A little, relatively speaking. And I didn't go back to my first Nebraska game until they went to Cal in Berkeley. And I had missed like 3 years of Nebraska football. But anyway, you asked me that one time about living out of a suitcase and looking over your shoulder in 10 days and stuff like that. It's not fun. My recommendation was be a better athlete so you don't have to worry about getting cut every 7 days.
so you can, buy a house somewhere.
Yeah, just be better, man. Like, if you want to play it safe, just be a better athlete. And I fell in love with his story. I loved what he did at Syracuse against Kansas while they were struggling from the foul line. Here's the freshman that just kept persevering. And then I'm a big philanthropy guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a 7-star. So nonprofits get rankings.
And would it out of 10?
So I think 7 is
the highest.
I think 7 is the highest.
Okay.
And it's like all these little formulas, like how much of the dollar is spent on administrative costs, how much goes back to the endeavor raise versus, kind of just are you efficient and do you do what you say you're going to do? And he has like a perfect rating for his nonprofit. I mean, he is about kids. He's about his community. Now, He's had some struggles in his personal life, but I mean, who among us
Hasn't.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm just a big, and he's done it his way. You know, the NBA's kind of blackballed him a little, and he just, I don't know. I'm a huge. I used to always say, remember Shane? Like early in my days, I would always say, he says stay mellow. I would always say be more mellow. Because and this is going on. This
Mm-hmm.
is well into double digit years. Like I'm a huge Carmelo Anthony fan. So that part, I'm watching him and D Wade and Chris Paul, who looked like he was just struggling.
Paul looked like he was checked out even in the crowd.
Well, what was CP doing? And apparently the no shirt thing, like I don't know if I could pull that. I'd have to get rid of the four little chest. I have like four little chest hairs right here, and it's literally just four. I probably have to do away with those, but Mahomie and D Wade.
I mean, you saw what I thought about some of the outfit choices.
Yeah, I felt like you were being a little tough.
Petty?
Yeah. I'm like, well, shoot, you wear a hat inside.
Yeah, but that's completely
No,
different.
actually, it isn't.
It is because it
actually is.
So I wear a hat inside when I don't do my hair.
Okay, well,
so it's to cover something up.
Maybe
like I would wear sunglasses inside if I had a concussion.
Maybe they.
I don't have a concussion. I don't need to wear sunglasses
they
inside.
like the way they look. I mean, at the end of the day, you're wearing the accessory for the same reason. You feel like you look better. At the end of the day, you feel like you look better.
More like I'm covering something up, not that I look better.
And I'm not good enough to judge what their intentions are. I'm saying I think you at the end of the day you think you look better with a hat than without.
So what are sunglasses made to do? Block out the sun.
Yeah.
Right. What is a hat made to do?
Our hats were originally worn to keep out the sun.
Is that like the definition of a hat? I don't know.
That's why baseball players wear hats. That's why they have a
brim. Okay.
That's
you're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay,
and
that makes sense.
Cowboy hats were meant to keep folks cool, like to keep the sun off of them when they did their work. It wasn't to cover up their hair. And
maybe it's just because you don't see people wear sunglasses inside.
Yeah, and you're talking to a guy that spent 3 years wearing sunglasses inside.
Oh, I found that out.
So, but I just felt like I mean, people wear things to be comfortable. That's for them all the time.
I think
all the time.
In the general population, yes. But when we're looking at an award show, people wear things to stand out.
Whose rules are those? Don't you want to look nice at an award show?
I always want to look
wear that
nice
to an award show.
No, I would look clean. I'd clean up.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I'd wear a suit.
They want to clean
but see, I would wear something that is very black and white. Right, just something very even keeled.
The key pronoun in that is I.
Yeah, exactly.
Then there's they. Then there's we.
But when you get celebrities, it's almost a competition of what you're wearing.
Oh, for sure. I don't. I mean, they want to look nice. That's designers get paid during that time of year. But
I can find it ridiculous and funny.
If you don't,
absolutely.
If you don't,
doesn't make it right. Though.
If you don't look nice, I guarantee you they're gonna rip on you. Like they're gonna. I mean, it's just gonna be
some I mean,
talking the other athletes are going to rip on you.
I'm just not comfortable enough in my own skin to critique other people with what they wear. That's just me, though, right? So, I mean, to each their own. But you'll look at the internet or social media or whatever, and people will critique it real time. Oh, she shouldn't have had that on. Or, did you see what he had on? I mean, people. It's just naturally what people do, and people that dress like I knew what James Harden was wearing to the arena for like 3 straight years.
Well, that's a competition.
I knew what Russell Westbrook was wearing to the arena for 10 years. I knew what Kelsey was pulling up to Arrowhead in every time he entered the building. So I get it. Like people have a deal, but you know me, like it just fits my personality. I try to mind my own business. Like it's just generally who I am. As long as you're not being disrespectful, you're not causing anybody any harm. You're not trying to cast your aspersions on people that I care about. I'm fine. Like, knock your. I'm weird like that.
Yeah, and I shoot for elegance at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, again, you gotta be careful. Taste is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
So elegance is relative to you. You say it as though your standard is the standard. Your standard is your standard. You may not wear some. Your mom or maybe not your parents. They may look at something you're wearing and they may be like,
No, I've had that plenty of times.
right. So
I've worn a fedora before.
so-
I've worn a velvet suit jacket before.
So when you say
I wear stuff plenty
you
of
look
times.
for elegance, it's relative to your taste. At the end of the day, that's. I mean, I don't. It's there's just no real other way around that.
Right, and that's fine. I don't ever feel uncomfortable sharing that opinion though.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you are comfortable wearing what you want to wear, you're going to have to take criticism for what you're wearing.
Absolutely.
So, and I did that before when I wore a velvet suit jacket. When I wore a fedora to a basketball game in college, the amount of people that looked at me sideways or made fun of me for doing that.
Yeah. And you were like, "Yeah, this is."
But I was styling.
I could just ask you.
and I'm sure.
Are you listening to yourself?
And I'm sure other people say the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But the critiques will come.
Okay.
And I think sunglasses inside is just kind of nuts.
It is. Things can be over the top. I'll give you that. It just doesn't. It doesn't keep me up at night. I was more captivated that he looked exactly like Hugo Strange.
I thought it was funny.
I
mean, when Grady Dick got drafted, when he wore the ruby red slippers and everything else ruby,
Dorothy.
Yeah, he was Dorothy up and down.
It's no place like Kansas.
And
I
clicked his heels 3
I'm
times,
telling you,
right?
that was like I got it. Now, Dick, for all intents and purposes, turned out to be somebody completely different than I thought.
Did we talk about that yesterday?
Yeah, not yes. It was right after the draft, and I was like, man,
that's right.
I didn't know Dick kind of had that. I didn't know he had that in him. You're like, oh yeah, and I was like, it's kind of news.
Have you seen him on social media?
Yeah, that's where.
Yeah.
So on IG, you told me. So then I kind of just perused, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not what I thought I was getting. I thought I was just getting a guy that like to sit out here. And
is that why he averaged under
America.
double-digit points per game for the first half of the season? Because he's in the hotel rooms going like.
Well, there was something that I don't
dancing the night away.
I don't know, man.
How about your boy yesterday on social getting after Ravi and Jacob, Micah?
Oh,
chiming in, and then people ask him when's he's coming on. I'm like, I know.
Listen, he's still mad. He's still mad over that.
You're mad.
And all it is, again, and I told him it's
how old is he again?
There's 13.
Yeah, for a 13-year-old, he has a deep knowledge of what he's talking about.
Dude, that's all he does. It's all. I don't even know how he gets good grades. You get into wide receivers with him sometime, and it's all just yesterday. And bless his heart, he's actually in the same room as his brother. They're laying in Micah's bed. They're watching. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. 8th grade championships in Atlanta because the team that won the division is from Nebraska United. They're in the 8th grade. They're watching this game together, and Micah is saying, yeah, he's going to go to Lincoln North Star. That's Gatwich's brother. I can't believe that they borrowed this guy. He plays on this team from this state, and this guy plays. And I'm like, I know it's summer, and you just came from inside, so I'm not mad that you're not being constructive. But what are we doing? Dad, this was my coach at the All-Star game when we were at Bellevue East, man. The guy's pretty cool, man. He knows what he's doing. Don't mind that the hat's on backwards. That's not who he is. This is real time yesterday. So,
well, because he's filling in the blanks in your head,
right?
What you're thinking about.
He knows what I'm gonna say, right? So, whatever him and Ravi were getting. So Jacob started it because Micah thinks the twins, the Thompsons, will be very, very good. He thinks Amen. He told me how to say it correctly at the dinner table. Is going to be the best player in the top 10, even better than guys like Wembanyama. That, of course, it bothered Ravi a little bit, so he and Micah arguing here a couple weeks ago. I had to walk away. They went, and Ravi's a basketball head, right?
Yep.
Obviously.
Through and through.
15 minutes they're arguing. So we get done with the pod or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I said, he's just different. Like, he has some convictions. So Jacob came in yesterday to do NEB preps. And Jacob knows Micah. He sees him in the gym all the time, and he's like, and Jacob was kind of riding with Micah on the discussion. He's like, it's gonna be. I think they both will be pretty good. They do a lot of other things that affect games. Ravi's like, they can't shoot, right? I just have a blind spot for guys that can't shoot, but like most Creighton fans do, like if they're they're known for being efficient. There's just things that fit Creighton fans' eyes, right? And shooting is one of them. So they had a nice play yesterday. It wasn't our man. It was his brother.
Mm-hmm. How do you say his name? Asar,
I think. And Jacob was like, yeah, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, that was pretty nice alley-oop.
So I sent it to Micah because his point was their skill sets fit the NBA. Like they're going to be really, really good. And then that got the conversation started.
I started reading the thread.
So I asked Micah, I go, and it doesn't surprise me that he used Sabonis because his favorite player is Larry Bird and his next favorite player is Allen Iverson. I told you he's an old head. And I looked at him in the kitchen and I said, how'd you know how to spell Arvydas Sabonis? And he goes, Dad, come on. If I can do video edits, I can look up spelling. I'm like, go to your room.
Hey,
so do you know what he's
shut your pie hole?
You know what he's really mad about? He's mad and it's happy. See, you're used to it. I'm used to it because on social media, you need context.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get into every little nook and cranny. He's mad because he said his point was we've seen lots of other skilled big guys that have functioned at a high level. And all of a sudden we think Wembanyama is just that much different. He's basically saying he's got a long way to go. And he's not playing the long game with Wembanyama. That's why he used Porzingis and Sabonis and some of these other guys. And he's like that. If Wemby goes 28, 2-2 the rest of his career, like that would be a good career. Do you know whose stats those are? Those are Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is going for 23 a night and nobody even knows. Just because the guy has other interests doesn't mean he's not skilled. So, of course, I tweeted it to Ravi. I was like, I'm going to ride with my little guy on this one. But he's still
Well,
mad.
more times than not, you'd ride with your man.
No, he's crazy.
Well, I feel like as a dad, you would stand up for him more than Ravi.
If I feel like
you'd educate, but you wouldn't do it on social media.
Unless he was just flat out foolish, right? But he can hold his own. He can definitely hold his own when it comes to the NBA. Now his Rolodex isn't as great in like the NFL, but he can go back to like mid 2000s easy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Like this. Again, I don't know how he gets good grades. Thank the Lord he does. He's a little brainiac. He could do this job. He may fill in for me next week.
Sounds good.
Dude, you guys would have
I'd laugh my head off.
You'd have a ton of fun.
I wouldn't want you to come back.
I know. That's the problem.
We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
I remember growing up watching the ESPYs.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
I remember growing up watching the ESPYs and seeing a lot of great athletes win awards. And to be on this stage, winning this award is a tremendous honor. But it all wouldn't be possible without God. So I want to thank him first. I truly believe that.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hale Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon, Benning, and Drew Rogers. I'll take a moment and tell you about the Omaha Storm Chasers' upcoming games, and that all starts on Friday. You know what Friday is, DB?
Friday. Gotta get down on Friday.
They're taking on...
Everybody's working for the weekend. That's Sasha's doing.
Am I good now?
I'm just saying. Yeah, you're good.
You don't seem like a guy that would like that song. So the fact that you know the song kind of makes me smile.
I thought it was funny, like
ridiculous and funny.
Her and Nicholas Allen did some funny things.
Yeah, Nick Ba is a funny guy.
You know what's funny though, as Sasha kind of like runs the show. Hopefully she's not listening, but she went from like kind of this. She's kind of lighthearted, took a lot of chances, didn't give a what, right? She just kind of like let it rip. And she was kind of intimidating, right, Shane? Would you say intimidating back in the day?
You can ask her. I'm sure she's listening.
And now it's like she's this measured. I gotta ask the boss, kind of, what do you think? Like sometimes I'll just call her and say, "Hey, let's walk through this." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if that was 10 years ago, it would have been the other way around.
She would have called you.
Yeah, or we would, I'd have stopped her in the hallway, or we'd have pulled her to the side. I remember we, didn't want to lose her.
Right.
But
Right.
now,
Oh, definitely.
like the roles, it's like she's the mother hen, and she's way younger than me. Like just the evolution and kind of her role. And now it's like
Grinded to the top.
and now it's like I feel comfortable. I'm like, hey, like you got a different perspective. Like you're on the top floor with the brain trust. What do you think? Like I do that. You know what I mean? Like just her evolution has been spectacular. It's kind of weird.
And you know how you could
But
celebrate with her?
She's really. Do you get her creative side?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because sometimes because
Oh,
she
yeah.
has to herd cats,
Mhm.
it gets lost.
She's more
She is-
measured now because of her
She is
role.
ridiculously creative.
Right.
Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, she just has. I mean, she's juggling so many
Yeah,
things.
but now it's like she's got gotta keep the kids in the play pen.
Yeah. And we're all trying to escape out the gate.
She was like the go-to. Like if we want to think outside the box or come up with a good open, or we'd have Shane consult. It's like, Sasha could do this, and this. Like, I bet she's got a good idea. Like, she'll just she can just figure it out.
Well, she's just a thinker.
And now it's like, and now she can't afford to, because if she gives us an inch, we'll take a mile. She's got to be like black and white now. And she's like, Dee, I'm team gray. I live in the gray. I can't manage you clowns and be in the gray. Like, I got to be more black and white. I'm like, okay, I need black and white, man. My brain stays gray.
Well, get her some tickets to the Omaha Storm Chasers game. That's how you can repay.
She goes quite a bit. Although there couldn't be a place further from her where she lives. And there's no fast way to get there, as we found out.
That is true. That is very true. But she makes it to work every day, and it's right down the road from work.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes from my house. I can almost see the lights,
which is sweet.
It's spectacular. It's right by our house.
Well,
right?
I also like that. And some people would say, no, put them downtown because, having a baseball team downtown is just a better feel than kind of out in, I don't want to call it the middle of nowhere, but it's surrounded by practically nothing in neighborhoods.
So how long
but
have
it's
you been
great
here?
for us.
How long have you been here?
Since September of 22.
So,
right?
Okay. So when that thing was first built, it was like way out there. There's nothing around there. You go now, they got the immaculate
apartments,
school,
apartments. They have a bunch of housing, neighborhoods, and things
to eat. I'm like, they totally built in a community
around that field,
this ballpark. I'm amazed.
But selfishly, I like going there
selfish
over downtown, just because I like to avoid downtowns.
But here's the
downtowns, and that's plural, not just Omaha. All downtowns.
Not to get too deep into why we want everybody to go see the Storm Chasers, but it's more wholesome isn't the word. What's the word I'm looking for?
Family oriented.
Sure.
Family fun atmosphere.
It's not as.
It's light.
It's very light. It's fun.
It's not like going to a major league game where you have to sit in your seat the whole time.
I don't get fun when I go to the Schwab. I get like work.
I know what you're saying.
Even
during the CWS, there's a ton of fun there.
Even the employees. Like, look at some of the goofballs that do like scoring and PA and stuff. Like, they're fun people.
Not Savannah Bananas, but we're going that direction.
Well, I fell in love with two things. This is a long time ago. I fell in love with the Family Fun Zone because that was Caleb's baby. Wanted a birthday party there, and I liked the food. Those were the main two things. If I wanted to like lay back and dribble like Homer Simpson and watch. I could, and I wouldn't feel bad. It's just fun, and the people are good natured. That's the thing.
Yeah, I like it too because not only are you supporting the farm system for the guys that don't get a lot of fans, they don't get the 40,000 fans every night. They're trying to get to that point.
And what's funny too, because they've had some thoroughbreds out there the last handful of years.
But you're showing just when you're in that space in AAA, there's not as many people around you. So the players, if they would be more willing to talk to you, interact with you in that setting versus if you're surrounded by a crowd of 500 people. They're more relaxed. You're more relaxed. It's just fun. Go to the Storm Chasers game. Check them out.
And I'm biased because I think we like Marty.
We like Marty a ton.
What's hard?
Because Marty's good to us too.
Yeah, and he's helped me in my like it's just more than just being the Chasers, dude.
Let's go to the phone chain.
By the way, how would you like to be able to hire new soccer coaches and just keep winning?
Must be pretty nice.
Well, what are we talking about?
Yeah, must be pretty nice.
Go Union Omaha. Just don't chew up the field. All right, I kid because I care. Let's go to Michigan. Prancy Pants Lance. What do you want this morning, Lance?
Feeling prancy today.
Hey, you used to coach Micah. I know if you heard those stories, you're like, yep, that's that dude.
Man, what were you talking about with Micah besides?
Oh, he's arguing with Ravi, and he's team Jacob Padilla. And I told Jacob Jacob is more his speed because Jacob likes facts.
Oh yeah. He's like Langston too. That's why Langston and Micah got along.
They got along. Yeah.
My son.
Yeah.
Langston's not high on Victor as well, and so I wonder if it's a generation thing, like, or it's just because our kids are pretty smart and understand. Like, I don't know. Like, do a lot of kids think Victor's gonna be nice? Or,
I think our kids are a product of their fathers, where it's like, show me.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
I think I think that's really what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Langston's not high on Brandon Miller either. Is that right? Is that Alabama?
Me neither.
So I don't think the Hornets are high on him.
He's the best he's going to be as a role player.
Hey, so the funny thing was, if you ask Micah, it was, well, all you had to do was swap out a healthy Nick Smith with Brandon Miller, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. I said, oh, okay. I said, who's the steal of the first round then, Micah? It's going to be Nick Smith. You watch. Okay. So now I'm watching Nick Smith. I kind of want him to be right.
Right. So
I'm good for bold predictions.
What was he?
Man, this Victor hype is
late.
Hey, let me ask you something real quick before you get going. As I'm looking at Texas and OU again, do you believe in Sark?
No.
Hey,
not at all.
So Andrew and I were pulling up his records because it's trending obviously with Texas going yesterday. Do you know that they have the second best odds to win their conference of any Power 5 school except for Georgia? Texas.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
What?
I'm not surprised, man. The hype on Sark, man. Like he how did he even fall forward? Like my man was he likes to drink. And I'm not talking about he needs to go to AA drink. He likes to party drink. And my man fell forward, the biggest fall forward ever. Hey, man, and LeBron, listen, man, my man is wearing a pearl choker. That's terrible. He knows where he got that. He knows where he got that necklace from, and it wasn't the men's department.
Wow.
Ooh. Lance, I appreciate the short thoughts, man. Have a great day. We'll take a break.
And Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Damon, Benning, and Andrew Rogers with Coffee and Cream on ESPN Radio in Omaha, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. You can catch us there. You can post a comment on YouTube. We'll see it. We'll get to them. David Erickson asked, does Vegas lose that team that they have since the A's are coming, or can they house both?
You have to.
The answer is no. They cannot house both. So I don't know if that's a rule. Like, I really don't know the rule behind that.
I just don't think you can make it work.
People are going to choose Major League Baseball over minor league baseball. And how do you battle the season then?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I don't know where they go.
That would be like having a fish house and Long John's on the same block. People are going to go to the fish house. I just don't think Long John's can survive.
Is Long John's the AAA affiliate of the fish house?
Speaking of my knucklehead son, he goes, yeah, we haven't made our yearly, you said once a year going to Long John's. It's almost August. Who's keeping track of that?
You guys should just go during Lent. They have a plethora of fish there.
We're going to call him. His train. So my buddy Jordan is like, that conversation sounds so like Micah. And I'm like, it is. Like, we're going to call him when we get an opening segment. But listen, in the comment section, we got a star at CFB _ professor.
He's been in our comments for a little bit now.
Man, Mr. McClintock says. And listen, they're really he and Dave, like, They do phenomenal work, especially with their partnership now.
You know how we talked about like being an expert in something
Yeah,
just a couple of days ago?
And a data head,
Mhm.
which is why he and I first hit it off some years ago. I remember we had him on one time. This was like his first time. Remember, Shane? And even my partner was like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "Listen, I'm telling you,
It's going to
this-
work.
This dude is going to be a star. Like, do you not follow him? Look at his data." It's like data, and it's weird because as the more you're around me, I'm probably a blend of feel and data, but I do love numbers. CFB professor says Sark is a phenomenal play caller. Head coach though? Question mark. He's staffed well. We'll see if that'll compensate. Does that mean is Texas winning double-digit games? Sark's never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
And
He's
that's
only
Washington,
won
that's
9
USC, that's
once.
Texas.
He's only won 9 once.
I think that was back in 2013 at USC. Not 2013, like 20.
Yeah, 9-4,
16,
15 maybe. I got to go back because I used to know Sark like the back of my hand, especially when he was SC's coordinator.
I can find it right here. 2014.
Yeah. So it's like, listen, I'm not. As they flood the television screens. I'm not anti-Sark. I'm anti the phenomenon that all of a sudden something can be something it's never been
Mm-hmm.
with that kind of trend. And you're talking to the king of the guy that says, just because it always has been doesn't mean it always will be. Like, I believe in change. The data doesn't lend itself to that. But Big 12 Media Days yesterday was fascinating. There's a couple guys. I'm like, and I think Dykes went first. I'm going back and watching it in the order in which I wanted to get the information, but I think Dykes went first. Like, how is Dykes? We should ask Adam. How is Dykes not going to win at TCU?
So it's hard to imagine that after 1 year they'll just
let's
fall
just
off.
let's just take a little sample size. When did you listen to any of the? Okay, so when you listen to Dykes and you listen to Sark, like, let's just say you close your eyes and you just hear the words that are coming out of my mouth, and you just listen to what they're saying. Do you not believe in Dykes more than you do Sark?
I've always believed that to be the case. And I don't know if that's because I never really liked how Sark carried himself. I think, and this is not, I'm not basing.
Hey, so hang on. Shane, you know my favorite thing about Rue? When he goes, you're not going to want to hurt somebody's feelings. Just put it out there.
And he's leaning forward too.
Yeah, I know. Like your own
It's fine. I'll lean back, Shane.
Let it rip. Odds. Cock that 88-mile-an-hour heater.
Look,
from 46.6.
I don't want to overuse what we saw last year in a short snippet of Sark in the tunnel yelling at somebody, trying to coordinate, like holding people back, waiting for the time go, whatever.
About that.
But if that just shows me a little bit of his personality, just a little bit of how he carries himself, like, this is somebody doing their job, timing you so you guys look good.
Yeah.
When you run out onto the field and you're going to stand there and yell at him because he kind of like brushed up against you or held his arm out in front of you. If that tells me about your personality,
for like a day over that.
Oh, more, maybe a week. I don't need somebody that angry, angry outside of the football, everything, running this team, running the show with the track record that you have. Now, if you had a Kirby Smart track record in the last 3-4 years, then I'd say, Sark, really react however you want, because you're bringing all these wins to the table.
You know what's funny about Kirby Smart? And I remember we had Barrett Sallee on. This was years ago. This was year 2 of Smart. And people were wondering if it was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The overall aptitude, I don't know. Like, that was the general consensus on Smart was, I don't know about this. And now it's like we put him in the top 3 because they win. Anyway, I say all that to say,
Texas has all the talent in the world. right? You can get all the talent in the world
They got
there.
Jalen Ford. They had my favorite player for a year and a half in Bijan Robinson. You didn't know
And
me
Quinn
then, but
Ewers is a great
I'm
quarterback.
not a Ewers guy, but
If he takes a step up this year, like if he bounces back from injury, like I think he will, because he was playing really well last year before he got injured. If he takes that step up, he could be a late first round, early second round talent in the draft.
Maybe, because if you look at the quarterbacks, you got Caleb Williams,
who will
you got
go
Drake
one.
May, you've got Penix Jr., you've got McCarthy, you've got who else would I put up?
I don't even know if I'd expand past the first three and Ewers.
What about Daniels at LSU? A lot of people like him.
That is true too.
And another year with Kelly, his stock may be up and away.
I think Quinn Ewers will find success. I think Texas will find success, but I don't know how the national perspective can be this team has even money if you choose them to win the Big 12 this year with what we've seen out of Texas under Steve Sarkisian. I don't, or just of Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can just get out there and place that down right now.
And the Big 12 conference, and coincidentally, we're talking about the Big 12 just because they were the first one to kick off their media days. I mean, it seems pretty wide open, doesn't it? I mean, Texas is the fave, but Oklahoma's right there. I actually would put K-State ahead of Oklahoma, but and how about the subtle references? Was it Prisco? Who was talking a couple of days ago? It wasn't Clay Travis. It's somebody that does sports more. Cowherd, maybe? Was it Cowherd, Shane?
Could be.
Comparing Oklahoma potentially to Nebraska.
Oh, that was a while back. It was Cowherd because I got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we did talk. Was I here for that conversation?
Yeah.
Because it came up yesterday on social media, and I was like, are we really having this conversation? So then I was mad because I was like, you know what? If Nebraska would have just held up their end of the deal, moving to the Big Ten, they wouldn't be the Peapot whipping boys. But they kind of are now, and they've earned it. But are people really thinking that about Venables? I got to ask my man Oklahoma Tyler.
I know some people are thinking that he's turning into a Steve Sarkisian, right?
It's a wrong question.
Like,
well, they're two totally different personalities, though. Oh, you mean
from a head coaching standpoint,
falling up?
Yes.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, hey Shane, you know what we need to do while we're having this conversation? I want to talk coaches, so you need to book Adam. Call, see if we can talk.
He's just going to let us know when he's available here.
No. See, but I want to do it tomorrow because I'm going next week. See, do we have room tomorrow? If we do, see if we can
make room.
CFB_professor.
We're making room.
If it seems like he's trending on the way down as a head coach, as a guy that could have picked his job as a coordinator. That window sucks. The whole get while the getting's good versus, I don't know if you're ready. Because it seems like, did you I listened to Leipold? I don't know why I said Leopold. It's
Leotard?
It's a Bugs Bunny thing. Bugs Bunny's the director, and he has the white hair on, and he's walking down the band pit, the orchestra pit.
Singing do-wah diddy dum diddy do.
Like, Leopold. So anyway, Lance Leipold, who obviously through the recruiting.
He's locked in. He said, sounds good.
We got to dang, you stay on it. Like I listened to some of these guys yesterday. They just sound more like leaders. A leader.
Over other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I tried, and I'm like, not everybody's a great orator. Am I being a tough critic? But I know, like, so when I listen to those things, I'm a big press conference guy. I always try to listen to, okay, who would I want to be led by?
You're not choosing the guy wearing orange?
I just didn't get that feel. Right? I'm like, do you believe or do you not believe? And what makes this team different? You kept saying this team's different. This team's different.
Talented. That's what it is. That's it. They're
But
talented.
It's their mind,
Mhm.
though. That's the key.
We'll take a break. We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hale Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about a certain tweet thread, I should say. And a person involved in that thread is our next guest. Ravi Lulla joins the show now at Lulla on Twitter. He's a radio host and content creator for Hurrdat Sports. You hear him on Dish and Ish with DB. You hear him filling in on the show from time to time, and he will do that next week and the following as DB bounces to go do some football things with the boys. And then the following week, I'm out on vacation. So Robbie will be in the chair for two straight weeks. You'll get to hear his voice, but you get a little teaser now. Robbie, good morning.
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Long time no talk.
Robbie, take me through the thread between you, Jacob, DB, and Micah.
Well, you got to set the stage for a couple of weeks ago where it jumped off.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, DB's got Micah in, brings Micah in real quick to the club, and
to the club.
In the club. We're talking about the draft lottery because it was before the draft, and Micah's talking about who he likes, and he's talking about how he likes the Thompson twins, and I'm a little unsure because I think they've got a little ways to go on their game, mostly their jump shot, and to be fair, I didn't give them enough credit, especially Asher, who we've seen a pretty good amount here in Summer League. But my main contention was he wasn't giving Wembanyama his full respect in terms of the feeling of what type of prospect he could be. And so last night we're going back and forth on Twitter with Damon and me and
Jacob gassed it, though. Jacob low-key gassed it.
He did. And then Micah is in there, but he's also like talking to Damon vicariously. So like, it got a little convoluted there. He's like having dinner conversations, and then Damon's bringing him back to the Twitter thread. But basically, Micah's like, I mean, Wembanyama's just Porzingis, and I was like, come on, my guy.
I mean, kind of, but not really. No, he said we've seen the hype before. Was his point?
Well, yeah, we see the hype all the time, but sometimes the hype is legitimately created, whereas like here's the difference. Like there's parts of Porzingis' offensive game when he was healthy that I can understand how you would look at Wembanyama and say, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then there's parts of his defensive game where you could compare it to a couple guys and say, okay, we've kind of seen that before. The difference is they're all in the same dude and he's 7'5". We have not seen that before. I don't care what Micah says. We have not seen the combination of size, skill, and defensive instincts. We have never seen that in a prospect before. This is unprecedented. That's why there's hype. Is he going to fulfill the hype? I don't know. But that's why it exists. It's not like he's just like, oh, we see this every couple years. The closest thing we've seen to it, honestly, with the defensive instinct and the offensive upside is Chet. And Chet got his lunch eaten by Wembanyama when they played an international ball. So, like, we have not seen it before.
Chet has facial hair now. He's looked pretty good, though, in Summer League.
I'm a huge Chet guy for the same reason I'm a huge Wembanyama guy. I understand that the body could fail because it's such a weird and unique body type for the NBA. But that is my only concern with either of them.
My face looks like Chet from the past now, DB?
Yep,
is that what you're kind of saying?
Clean shaven.
Robbie and I were sitting here while you guys were doing your show, and we were watching Wimbledon, and I had asked him, I said, are you a Wimbledon fan? He goes, yeah, because, back in the day, we didn't have cable, but Wimbledon was always on TV after school. So I would turn that on, and he became a big tennis fan because of that. But we were really looking at the technology that Wimbledon uses, kind of like the goal line technology in soccer. And then we were like, why don't they have anything like that in football when it comes to like marking a first down or at least at the goal line if the ball crosses the line? And Ravi, what did you say that football needs to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. You just put either you put the cameras or sensors or whatever in the pylons, or you could put them in the chain markers. Like, it is the most, well, probably second most after soccer, profitable sport in the world. And we're still out there just with some middle-aged dudes in striped shirts being like, yeah, I think that's right.
You sound like Severe. Totally.
Look through 20 dudes who weigh like an average of 280 pounds each. And you're like, I think I know where this tiny football is. I don't know. good enough. It's not like there's billions of dollars on the line. Oh, wait, maybe there is. Like, you cannot tell me that it is that difficult. I've got more computing power in my hand right now that I'm talking to you than sent us to the moon, and you're telling me we can't figure out how to properly spot a football? I do not buy it.
He wants to put sensors in the ball too.
And apparently, this is total severe. He gets mad. Like there's just no. You can't explain to him why this hasn't been done by now, unless you're just being lazy. And that's it sounds like that's how you feel, Ravi.
Yeah, like it's kind of like is it just the nostalgia of like, oh, sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Isn't that fun? It's like, no, just get it right. We have the technology. There's no whimsy. There's no whimsical thing about like, oh, look how cool and like old timey our sport is because we have fat guys in stripes telling us where the ball is. No. You have no, and it's not even just touchdowns. You know how many times a game where they just mismark a ball and it doesn't get challenged because it's like a yard or a yard
or the consensus is, well, spotting the ball is such a hard challenge, so people just don't do it. Like they speak it into existence.
It's not that hard. You know why? Because you just put sensors in the ball and you're done. You're just done.
It's like Top Golf.
We were watching it yesterday on Wimbledon. They can tell me if a tennis ball moving at 130 miles an hour catches a 16th of an inch of a line. You can't tell me where the football is?
Ravi.
Get angry.
Ravi, are you all in on Purdy?
No. I'm hesitant because I don't know, man. Like the body of work from last year was good. Let me give you some context here, okay? So,
set the stage for us.
And you know I'm a context guy.
I'm a naturally kind of skeptical person
when
something happens that doesn't make a ton of sense. So, like when David Ortiz came over to the Red Sox from Minnesota, and he hadn't done a whole lot in Minnesota, and then all of a sudden in like 03 and 04, you're like, oh, this guy can mash. I didn't know. Didn't believe it was like I expected it to go away until like 2007. I had like 4 years where I was like, meh, it's nice that we have him right now, but I don't know if it's going to be real. And then finally, like 5 years in, I thought to myself, oh, I think this might last. And obviously it did, but that's kind of where like a frame of reference for how I think about these things that kind of just pop off out of nowhere. I'm like, are we sure about this? I'm all in on Kyle Shanahan being able to figure it out. Is maybe the best way I could frame this. I think Brock Purdy, from what I've read, does a lot of the things in terms of it appears that he is elite at processing time. I'm not sure he's elite at anything else. I think he's adequate arm strength, pretty good accuracy, but from everything that the way they've tested him and stuff like that, his processing time is off the charts. And so if you had to pick something that you were off the charts at, that's a pretty good one if you're an NFL quarterback, right? As long as you can adequately get the ball there once you've done the processing, which he can. So the physical tools obviously are not elite, but if that's true that his processing time is that high level, which it would make sense that he comes in, doesn't really have any experience in the NFL and just like, no, this is fine, I can do this. That would make sense with what they've said about how he processes the plays and everything. So, but that's hard to see in terms of physical things, and you do need kind of a larger sample size to say, yeah, this is real. And so it kind of reminds me with, like the Kurt Warner thing from back in the day where you're like, yeah, he had a really nice year. Is this real? Is this just who he's going to be for the rest of time? And it kind of turned out he was. So, but there's also a million guys where it's like, oh man, they had a really nice year, and then you kind of never hear from them again. So I'll say between the group of Purdy and Lance and even Sam Darnold, I trust Kyle Shanahan will get a quality level of quarterback play out of that group. Is it probably going to be Purdy? Yeah. But if it's not, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be shocked.
Do you think they move on from Lance sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think they want to make sure that Purdy's healthy. I would be a little surprised if they moved on just with their quarterback injury history under Shanahan. It's not like last year was an isolated incident. Garoppolo got hurt a bunch. This is, kind of a thing with the 49ers, and that their quarterbacks have been getting hurt pretty frequently under Shanahan. So, and you don't want to go all the way back to the RG3 thing back in Washington. It's kind of a thing. So if I were the 49ers, as long as I've got them both cheap, I'd keep them because you're probably going to need multiple quarterbacks, which is something you say a lot in college and not a lot in the NFL. With the 49ers, you're going to need multiple quarterbacks.
The more I think about that, the more I think about their running back room too. How often they're beat up.
Oh, yeah, but it's loaded. And you get a full year of McCaffrey if he's healthy.
Yeah, that's kind of the most ironic thing is this guy who is perpetually injured gets over to the 49ers and he's healthy for the first time in, this is his first or second year in the league. And they're like, well, that's kind of weird. But, yeah, I mean, they ask a lot out of their skill position guys, but they've got so many of them. Like, I don't really worry about running back at all. Just throw Debo back there. I don't care.
Hey, let me ask you something. Of the potential fours of Miller, Trout, Jason Green, as we kind of jump over to Creighton Hoops real quick.
Which is good because they just stepped back on the hardwood. Media was allowed in.
Practice. What do you think happens there relative to it? Will it be our best defensive option? Will it be I'm really good offensively as Coach Mack when my four is pretty stretchy historically? Like what do you think will be the end-all be-all?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to – I think it's going to be Trout. I think it's going to be Trout. But –
wouldn't that be something? Right? The guy that we kind of left for dead because he didn't come to our school. Oh, he's not that good. He should have done this. Now that he's ours again, it's like, whoo, go IT.
What does that sound like?
Nebraska.
I mean, I didn't leave him for dead because I was told in like September that he was coming back. So I was like, yeah, let's go try. No, I think it's going to be – he's a super talented guy. Like, I know that maybe not everybody in the Metro got to see him because he was playing out in Grand Island. And obviously he didn't play with Virginia last year. But he was like a top 50, top 60 recruit in the country. He is a super talented guy. He could have gone just about anywhere he wanted. And he apparently is finally happy being back kind of in his home state with, people he cares about around him. So I would imagine it's going to be Trout starting at the 4. Miller's going to play a lot. I like Miller's game a ton. It's a little bit different than Trout's. Trout's a more advanced scorer. Miller's probably a little bit more athletic. But think about these guys. I mean, we're talking about guys that are 6'9" and 6'10", respectively. They're going to have a huge front line. And it's going to be a little different defensively depending on who you go with. Trout probably not as switchable on the perimeter as Miller is. And I don't know how switchable Miller is. Depends on how his defenses come along. You can kind of see it last year. He was getting more comfortable. Typically, they've switched a lot of those 1 through 4 things on defense. With Trout, that's probably not an option doing a straight switch. You may have to change up your coverages on ball screens and stuff a little bit there, but I think he's good enough offensively, and they'll find something that works, whether it's a like a drop coverage or a hard hedge or something like that, that I don't think it will keep him off the court on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think people understand, like, he's not just a shooter. He's an elite scorer in Trout. So that's going to be honestly a huge difference. And this is nothing against Arthur Kaluma, but the polish on Trout's scoring game is so much more advanced than what we were seeing from Kaluma that I think it's going to be pretty startling.
Now, having said that, I bet Kaluma has a big year at K-State.
Oh, probably. Yeah, absolutely. I don't. The issue with Kaluma was more fit with Creighton than it was.
Completely agree. I think Tang will have him. That's That's a good landing spot for him.
Absolutely. I think he's going to have a big year, and I hope he has a big year. Like, I don't have anything against Arthur Kaluma. He was an awkward fit for what Creighton usually wants at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so a guy like Trout, a guy like Miller is a much more seamless transition into what they typically have their 4s do. They kind of had to adjust things to try and make it work for Kaluma's skill set, and it never totally clicked.
Hey, how good is the coaching process in the Big East?
Oh, it's insane. I mean, it was insane before, and then you bring in, a couple years ago, you bring in Shaka. Now you got Patino in the league as well. Obviously, Cooley moves from one Big East school to another. He does, and then you've got McDermott, who maybe is the best of the bunch without Wright there. Is that crazy?
I don't know. A lot of people like that guy down there in Georgetown.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Maybe off long-term success?
You'd have a hard time convincing me that Ed Cooley's a better basketball coach than Greg McDermott.
No, I'm right there with you.
I
didn't come around on Coach Cooley. It probably says more about me than anything. I didn't come around on Coach Cooley until like maybe 2 years ago, if that.
I think he's one of those guys. I'm really interested to see what happens with him at Georgetown, because he's one of those guys that has felt like he's been overperforming in terms of kind of the talent that he has. And he probably has better talent than I give him credit for, but their style of play makes it look like they're not very talented. And so I wonder if he kind of chooses that route because of who he can get to come to who he could have gotten to come to Providence, or if that's the kind of guys that he wants to coach. And we'll find out at Georgetown, because you can get a different caliber guy at Georgetown than you can at Providence. So
I'll wait and see how he rounds out his staff too, because I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see if he can elevate the level of talent and still keep kind of that hard-nosed style of Providence basketball that we've come to know and not so much love. But that's going to be the really interesting thing for me with Cooley at Georgetown, because he was a really good fit, I thought, between what he likes to do coaching-wise and the school and the program and the type of players he could get. And I'm really interested to see how that translates to Georgetown.
Now, we kind of compared, you talked about the Trout versus Kaluma and the flexibility that Trout offers and being a better fit for Creighton. If you look at the point guard spot with Ashworth and you look at what Nebraska lost in Nembhard, are you seeing similarities in game? Is it completely different? Is one more valuable than the other? I think there's things to like about both of them, but I don't know if, and I don't think Creighton's taken a step back by having Ashworth as their player this year.
So this could be one of those situations where Nembhard is maybe a little more overall talented, and Creighton is better off with a guy like Ashworth. It's possible. I want to put a caveat on that. I have a little bit of history with Ryan Nembhard for people that don't know. But
DMs are open?
Yeah, they are. DMs are always open. And some people like to find them at 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I think Nembhard is probably a little more talented than Ashworth. Ashworth is a better shooter, and I think he is maybe a better fit for a team like Creighton, where they've got multiple guys that can ball handle and score and get their own shot. Nembhard is very ball dominant in kind of what he likes to do and what he needs to do to be effective. He's not a guy that you can really take the ball out of his hands and have it work very well. And that's hard when you've got a guy like Trey Alexander and a guy like Baylor Shireman, who are also good with the ball in their hands and could be better with the ball in their hands if they got more reps and opportunities. Ashworth, to me, seems like he's going to be less of a ball-dominant point guard. He's got the shooting ability. His catch-and-shoot numbers are really good. So you can use him in other spots. He can still pull the defense with his shooting. And the same thing with Trout. I think people are not maybe understanding how open the lane is going to be with Trout spotting up or Miller spotting up instead of Kaluma spotting up. Like, that's going to make a pretty big difference. You're not going to be able to send that guy to help to the same degree that you could with Kaluma. With Kaluma, you were kind of hoping that he would settle for a three-pointer. With Trout and Miller, that's not going to be the case. You're going to have to stick to them and fly out to them if you do go to help. So that all to say, Nembhard probably gets the edge on talent. I think Creighton could be in a better spot with Ashworth.
And we're going to get into this hopefully in the next segment. But with Big Ten Media Days, Nebraska decides on Piper, Ethan Piper, Sims, and Reimer. What'd you make of it? And is it something of it looks like to me, and I'll share some thoughts. It looks like something to me other than just natural physical talent. Like, do you see the selections? Do you see why they made the selections they did?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want to say Sims is surprising, but I think it's a good thing that he has earned that. Obviously, you're going to be your QB1, but like you said, it doesn't appear to be just a pure talent thing. And I wouldn't expect it to be with Rule, with all the things that he talks about, with all the things that he preaches that they care about as a program and that they're trying to instill in their players as a program. I wouldn't expect it to be a pure talent thing. I'd be disappointed if it was a pure talent thing. To me, it's going to be about who of our players best embodies the things that we are trying to teach as coaches, right? Who owns the accountability piece of this? Who owns the attention to detail piece of this? And it apparently is those three guys, which I think is really encouraging that your starting quarterback is one of them. That's a really good sign. I think it's encouraging that an offensive lineman is one of them, with all the concerns, and rightfully so, that we've had about the offensive line and retaining Rayola and what that looks like, and are they going to improve enough to allow everything else on offense to even be functional. I think it's encouraging that you've got a lineman in there, and I mean, Reimer is probably the least surprising one to me. I think that's probably about right. When you said that name, I was like, that's about right. So, I mean, I think it embodies what Rule is trying to enforce and teach in the program.
Ravi, appreciate your time this morning, man. Thanks so much, and we will talk a lot more next week.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Ravi Lulla. Brian Edwards coming up at 8:45. At 9:30, we'll transition to the high school basketball scene and talk to Matt Reynolds, president of NXT Pro Hoops, Elite 8 here in Omaha this weekend. Yeah. And then we will close the show with Bill Baker, play-by-play voice for the NIU Huskies, as we continue our schedule breakdown. But we'll get into the Big Ten media.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. Before we get into it, let's take a moment and tell you about Dingman's Collision Center, dingmans.com, to schedule an estimate for great locations. Some of the best service you'll get in the car repair industry. And we deal with some good people over at Dingman's, and you will too. They give back to the community. They do so much more than just fix up your car. But I'll tell you what, they'll make that beauty good to go back on the road as soon as you need it. Go check out dingmanscollisioncenter.com. Now, as you mentioned the question to Ravi about who is going to fill the seats from Nebraska on Big Ten Media Day, were you yourself surprised at all with the choices?
And I know, listen, I'm here for it. I'll entertain it. 888-638. A lot of people will tell me Jeff Sims seems like the obvious choice. I wondered.
Do you always send your quarterback? Like, is that like the thought?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'll be curious to get Nebraska fans' thoughts on this. Right? Were there times where you didn't want Taylor Martinez? Were there times where you had seen too much of Adrian Martinez? Because Adrian went 3 years in a row. My name is Jeff. You probably never seen. Have you seen Clarence before ever? My name is Jeff.
Well, my name's Jeff. That's actually from what 22 Jump Street,
And there's a cartoon
right?
where Jeff does kind of a similar thing. Oklahoma Tyler's son, Kobe Bean,
Not
Mosman. Not kidding you. Actually, it's Kobe Carmelo, but which is even crazier.
I feel like you're making something up. Now.
I swear to goodness, Timo's son is Kobe Carmelo. It's Carmelo Anthony Mosman. Listen, anyway, I was a little surprised because I didn't know if Coach Rule, like year one, first time out of the gates, would take a guy that hasn't been in the program, but Coach Rule and that staff haven't been in the program either. So I'll entertain either one. Good choice, right? He's Piper's the one that I like.
Well, I liked him too, just based on what I heard in the spring. He seemed like that leader, that person that you want on the mic for your team.
Good spokesperson, right? And the like getting in the weeds here, Piper's come a long way because he was such a good full disclosure, I thought I was going to be wrong about Piper. When Piper first got there, I was like, I'm telling you guys, did this guy in the state finals. He's got a great frame. He's super athletic. He was dunking basketballs. And he kind of got off to a slow start. And a couple of my former teammates, who shall remain nameless, were like, man, you smoke crack. I was like, wow, that's kind of harsh. Like, I don't go anywhere near drugs, but okay, why? He's like, well, not doing this and not doing that. And then kind of watched him over time, got back into the rotation, and I felt like he's arguably one of their top run blockers from a year ago. So I was like, I like the fact that he's hung in there and been a good ambassador for the program, because it's easy to say good things about people when everything's going your way. It's not always easy to say good things about people when it's still good and you may not be benefiting from it, but you see the value in it. So I'm team Piper. Now I'll disagree with Ravi a little. Reimer kind of surprised me.
So why did Reimer get forgotten about this offseason?
So
because nobody's talking about him and the impact that
he
can and will make.
Didn't practice.
But in the spring, he was out there. He was doing all the drills.
Been oft injured. And I think there was this little bit of, do I like the clash? Do I stay or should I go? With when the staff first got here. And he's going to have a fair, I believe this. I could be all wet, and I swear to goodness I don't have any preconceived knowledge. It's not like I said to Dvorak or Rule, hey man, I think there's going to be a fair amount of competition at the linebacker spot. I don't think there are any givens. And so when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, again, I don't know, so I'm thinking out loud. Is Reimer all in enough? And has he been out there enough?
I didn't see a harder worker when I attended practice
than
Reimer
in the
linebacker group.
So I thought maybe Bullocks would be in the discussion, but most importantly, I thought Newsome would, because Q is all in.
1,000%.
And he's very passionate about the program. So I thought
he was passionate about keeping his number. He was passionate about bringing Nebraska back. He was passionate about it.
And who was kind of leading that bad boy out there on the practice field? I thought Hartzog maybe, because he could be the poster child. Because for as much as everybody talks about times and you need certain measurables, like Hartzog is still the guy that kind of defies that, right? It's not overly top end, speedy, not a big guy. He's just very complete. He's like a lot of 7s and 8s. He's not like a 10 in one and a 2 in the other. I'll be curious to see how he fits in physically, right? Will he come fit in the run game? Because that's going to be huge for his particular position. But I was a little I'm not like, ooh, head scratcher, but I was like, okay, you know, Luke's a talented guy. I think physically, when he's right, he has Sunday talent ability. Like when he's feeling good, I think the little nuances of the game and kind of the execution of playing on the second level. There's still a lot to learn there from a football, like a savvy standpoint, but a lot of that is just because I think he's still evolving in the position. So probably this just sounds weird. He's been the most productive, but the most surprising for me was Reimer. The second most surprising for me was Sims, and the guy that I was like, makes complete sense was Ethan Piper.
So for me, I don't know if you can choose wrong by sending somebody to media day.
Totally.
Everybody's going to give you a different perspective based on their personality, and
you want people that are going to reflect well on the program.
100%. But at this point, I hope everybody does. Right? You're sending them to Big Ten Media Day. I hope you do. Right? That's the hope.
Yeah.
So, and I would agree with you that I'm not shocked with Piper. I think you need somebody from the line there and a good spokesperson, as we said, just to add to it. It makes you a good,
and I want leadership,
a good voice
to the ball.
Yeah, it gives you a good voice. I'm not shocked about Sims though. Year one, people are going to want to talk to the quarterback, and I think Rule and Nebraska knows that.
He'll make everybody's list and the countdowns and most industries.
Right, which is why I wasn't shocked to see him on the list. Now, if we were to see him next year and possibly the year to follow, if that's how long he tends to stay at Nebraska, then okay, we can maybe get into those Taylor Martinez conversations like you were talking about. But for year one, that didn't shock me to see the guy that everybody's been writing about, that everybody's been wondering about, there to represent your program, because it's just going to draw good attention for your program at the end of the day.
You asked, do you always have to have a quarterback? I don't think you always have to have a quarterback. Now, you do hope that your quarterback's a leader just because he's not representing you at media.
And I think that's just like the image that every team wants to send, though.
But it's like I'm just kind of going through the list. TA, I lack a little objectivity because I was a big Tommy Armstrong guy as a person. Adrian, I thought almost was like carried the burden.
But I'd want him there
because he was the natural choice. I felt like after year 2 and year 3, I was like, it's okay if he doesn't. Taylor, I didn't want at all.
Right.
Just because I just
selfishly,
I didn't think he was comfortable. Not like a Zach Taylor or somebody like that. Sure.
Right.
But sometimes guys just don't want to be the
pressure.
Guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if pressure's
pressure to be there, pressure to sound good,
just
pressure
to be there.
Right. Well, selfishly, media people want the big names. You want the coach, you want the head coach, you want the quarterback, and you want another impact player, because those are the three that are going to get recognized when you show them to the fan base, whether it's on print, on the radio, or on TV. So that's why when it comes down to this, it wouldn't shock me if there's a little bit of politics into, hey, I want you to send these guys, at least give me the quarterback while you're here. Give me the head coach while you're here, because that's what the media wants at the end of the day.
I know B. Edwards is coming up next. I want to ask you a question. Should Northwestern be at Big Ten Media Days?
Interesting. Brian Edwards coming your way.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a
What's wrong with that, dude?
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Lots of B's, but this one, Brian Edwards, joining the show. Now, we love B because not only does he make us a lot of money, especially if you follow his UFC plays as of late,
He's on fire.
but he's hiding himself from us today.
Yeah, typically he'll botch the audio or the video. So, and it's just it's
And
B.
look,
Edwards.
there he is. There he is. He just had to wipe the screen, and it's like the man behind the curtain. And I feel like the Wizard of Oz is revealed, and he is. I don't know if you're the wizard or if you're the Oz. I don't know.
Good morning, fellas. What's happening?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I am doing well.
Yeah, you're the UFC wizard.
Man, I've had a good summer. I'm usually better in the summer because I have more time to look at it, because during football and basketball, it's kind of tough. I mean, I always still watch the pay-per-views and whatnot, but I don't have time to study like a 12-fight card during the, from September to March.
Maybe you should, though, because you're making a ton of money. Maybe you should just let go of everything else and say, yeah, I'm a UFC guy.
Right. And man, I was close on the one I lost too with Jalen Turner. Now I did have Whitaker in a just a little prop to win by decision, but and Whitaker looked good early. But man, Duplessis, and so Duplessis is plus 270 underdog to Izzy, who's minus 330. And that was man, that was kind of an all-timer of a show, Damon. I thought. So now my number one is UFC 261 in Jacksonville when Usman knocked out Masvidal. Masvidal as a dog was the only bet I lost that whole night, and I was there. So that's my number one.
You know, it was interesting too because I think I was talking to you Sunday or Monday over text. It's like the Pantoja. I felt like, and I usually go back on like Plus, ESPN Plus or something, and I'll rewatch and I'll turn down the volume. But real time, I felt like we might have gotten away with one. But as we kind of went back over our own scorecards, I think we agreed on round 3, and we felt like he had won 1 and 5, right?
Right.
You're getting chunky plus money. You went it's like plus 180 or something like that. But so that one was obviously I'm like, oh, that's a gutsy pick. I felt like the one where you kind of stole was Volkanovski with the early stoppage because it seemed too good to be true. He's getting plus money. He's a monster. He's obviously the most complete, maybe. I said obviously and maybe in the same sentence. He seems like the most complete fighter in the UFC. I was like, God, that seems way too easy. And as that third round rolled around, you're like, oh, this one's about over.
Now he does have a lot of decision wins on his resume and 5 rounders, but I just think he's better right now than he's ever been. And so now he's
a
coming
monster.
he's coming off these finishes of Zombie and now Rodriguez the other night. I think he's better than he's ever been. And wow, Makachev and him, if that's next. I don't know if that's next, but if it is,
how can it not be?
well, especially with Oliveira saying he's not going to be ready by October, and I don't think the winner of Dustin and Gaethje is going to be ready for like 6 months. So I think you got to do Volkanovski and Makachev, although he faced off with Topuria. So but I like what Dana said in the post presser. He goes, "We'll do whatever he wants to do." I mean, he's done enough. We'll just roll with whatever he wants to do. Now, whether Makachev's on board, I would think he would be. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, so you know what's interesting? How Dana seems to be better post the episode with his wife. Could I use humility and Dana White in the same sentence? Listen, I don't know if he's turned the page. He's much better the last 4 or 5 months, I think, with the media, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's still pretty standoffish, but I don't mind that.
Well, I mean, if jerk is in your DNA, jerk is in your DNA. It's all varying degrees, right?
Yeah, but I think I would agree with that, but not to a point where I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh, humble Dana every day." I'm not thinking that, but he definitely was there for a month or two, and now, yeah, he's still pretty feisty, but I'm okay with that for the most part. Not the wife part, but you know what I mean.
I want to transition over to college football now because we asked you to look up some teams, and the Big Ten team that DB always talks about that really intrigues me because he thinks they're going to have a pretty good year, and that's Illinois. But their win total seems low at 6.5. I don't know if you thought the same or if some of the research that you've done, you're like, no, actually, I think that's right on the nose.
No, I do lean the over. So I initially marked them 6-2 with 4 swing games. The win total is 6.5. when I wrote this down, which had to be in my last like 10 days in my Phil Steele mag, it was FanDuel shaded to the over -118. Now that could have changed in the last week or so. That's the juice that is. But so I had the 4 swing games being at Kansas.
Okay.
I had at Maryland, Wisconsin at home, and at Minnesota, and I had their 2 for sure losses. I guess it's not for sure, but at Iowa and Penn State at home. So I guess neither one of them are for sure losses. But yeah, at Kansas, I mean, Kansas has got no defense. You would think Illinois would be able to run the ball well on them. Now, how's Altmaier going to be? We haven't really seen much of him other than the Sugar Bowl against Baylor, which was really a tough situation for him. That was a really good Baylor defense. And, it's not like he got the number 1 snaps going into that game. Corral got hurt, like the first or second possession of the first quarter. But Altmaier was a 4-star coming out of high school. So, that's the key to me. How is Altmaier going to be? Now, obviously, Chase Brown is gone, but Reggie Love and McCrary have gotten – well, McCrary didn't get much playing time last year, but those guys have gotten carries in the past.
The scheme trumps the talent for me, B.
Thank you. I'm not worried. Yeah.
The way that they run the football is, as a D coordinator, it would drive me fit. It would drive me crazy. They'll be just fine toting the rock.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with
Chase
that.
Brown was like, what, 5 a carry? He didn't gash you. He bled you. So a lot of, not to disrespect him because he was great, but a lot of guys can do that. That scheme trumps the individual talent.
Yeah, and they've got 3 of their top 4 pass catchers back, and Isaiah Williams is probably a
budding star.
Yeah, for sure. And they lose to DC, who went to Purdue, but man, what a defense they had last year. 12.8 points per game. Pretty sure that was number 1 in the nation. They never should have lost the Indiana game last year, and all of their losses except for the Mississippi State game, which really was a 1-possession game the whole way, but all their losses were 1-possession games. Lose by 2 at Michigan, and by 7 to Purdue, 8 to Michigan State at home. Never lost that game. So it could have been an even bigger season last year. So look, I lean over, and I might play it because they can definitely win at Kansas. But I do think Wisconsin wins the West. But Illinois, unless Iowa's offense just shows a pulse this year, then I think Illinois, it's probably between them, Iowa, and Minnesota for number 2 in the West. I think Iowa's defense is going to be elite, but who knows on their offense?
Yeah.
But their offense, who knows?
All right, let's hop over to the Big 12 because fresh off of media days, I'm listening to all these coaches. I like Texas Tech. Some like Okie State. Texas has the greatest odds in the Power 5 conference to win outside of Georgia, which I think is crazy. But what do you think about the Red Raiders?
So, I love what Joey McGuire did last year, and it wasn't like, now they did go 4-0 in 1-possession games. So sometimes when you see that, you think there's going to be some regression. But let me also point out that they were -7 in turnover margin last year.
Yes.
So that's not good, and yet they were still good. And, they had not won 8 games since 2013, and that was year 1. And another thing I noticed doesn't apply to this year, but and also this is with Oklahoma and Texas out of the Big 12. But right now they're number 1 in the Big 12 in recruiting for 2024, and that's one of the things they said about McGuire when they hired him. He's got connections all over Texas. He'll be good for recruiting, etc. And I don't have the exact stat, but I made a note on my page in my Phil Steele mag because I was listening to a VSiN podcast. He was one of the best in the country last year, not at 4th down efficiency, but when to go for it on 4th down. In other words, not Pat Narduzzi, not punting on 4th and 2 at the enemy 36. And so, yeah, look, Tyler Shaw's played a lot of football. He's got 11 career starts, 22-9 TDI and T ratio. Can he stay healthy? They got to get better on defense, but they've got their top 5 pass catchers back. So I marked them 5-2 with 5 swing games. Their total is 7.5. I mean, these are legit swing games. I mean, Oregon at home, I have them losing at Baylor, but some of these swing games are at home where they went 6-1 last year. K-State, a swing game at home. TCU, a swing game at home, and then the other ones were Oregon, and then at Kansas. Actually, and I changed UCF from a swing game to a win. So I've actually got them 6-2 with 4 swing games. So I would slightly lean over. I'm not saying I'll play it though.
Okay, B, we appreciate it, man. I need those details because when I build my 10-leg parlay for season win totals,
I got a couple more for you for next week too, B.
Wait, did they let you parlay win totals out there?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm
They
building.
might. DraftKings, they might.
Try
Check
anything.
DraftKings. Yeah. DraftKings pretty much will take anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to go over to the Warhorse to do that because DK doesn't want to do it for me right now. So it's all right. I'll just play big money.
Wow.
Thanks, B. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
All
Brian.
right, fellas. Y'all have a great week.
We'll do the Sports Six Pack up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, Andrew Rogers. You can catch us on KFOR now if you've been listening this whole time on 590 ESPN Radio here in Omaha. We appreciate having you with us. You must be on a long drive if you are, or you still have a radio next to your bedside. But I know a lot of people have their TVs streaming option, like a lot of streaming options on TV now, and they just go right to YouTube and pull us up. So we appreciate all of you who watch us as we do the show every morning. And while you work remotely, we are live on Twitter as well.
You
Hail
are
Varsity
looking
Radio
live.
and Hurrdat Sports YouTube pages, which is simulcast the word there? Simulstream? I don't know. Can I make stuff up? I do all the time.
Yeah, right. It's like, what is going on?
I should write all this stuff down. If you miss anything, I know where you can go for the podcast.
Yeah, it's funny too, because a lot of times people will say, "Hey, catching up on the podcast," and sometimes I don't even remember, right? Because we'll get going, or something will happen, and it's a total blackout moment,
Happens to me all the time.
where you just get rolled. It's like, wait, I have to go back and listen to that. I know how I feel about that topic. What did I actually say? Because sometimes you just get rolled.
Do you ever go back and actually listen? Because I do.
No.
I'm like, well, I want to make sure I know what I said so I don't sound like I'm contradicting what I said.
Nope. I can't stand my voice. I never listen.
Really?
Hate it. I leave one voicemail a month. Roughly.
I don't even know if I leave voicemails.
I
feel like if they don't answer, I shoot a text.
I feel
Say, call me back.
The last voicemail I remember leaving was to Rizak.
That's not true for me. I did leave a voicemail for your AD the other day, and he did call me back.
Oh, TK?
It was just easier to do that than send a big long text.
He was pretending to work. I needed him to get back to me on an NSAA ruling, right? We wanted to do like this commercial, and we weren't sure if we could. And everybody was like ready to go. And I was like, hey, man, hit me back. I got an NSAA question. And I didn't want to fast forward going to Nate Newhouse and just going straight to the source. He's like, hey, man, I'm in a meeting. Give me a second. I was like, whoa, we're in the middle of July, man. Are you working already? But yeah, I have some tests to take apparently too for certification. So that blows, but it's whatever.
To be a coach?
I feel like I have to do it every year. I'm like, can I just get locked in?
I don't know if So I told you I'm going to coach baseball this fall.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have to do anything specific for that.
Yeah. I mean, and I get it's fine. I just feel like I probably know the questions better than the test.
The test makers.
Yeah. and I think it bugs him because
How to Be a Coach by DB.
Because
all right, I'll fill out my own test.
It's like a ridiculous amount. I think it's like 110 or something like that. And I think the school has to eat it for the class.
Wow.
So we were like putting our heads together. We're like, hey, do you have last year's email and this, that, and the other with the tests? And so it's just fun. And so here's my favorite thing about him. And he's cool, right? Like he understands the rules. He's like actually become a good friend. He just doesn't. He is not going to ever, I don't care how close you are with him. I don't care what kind of solid you ask for. This dude is a rule follower. So if you're thinking about trying to don't even ask. Don't even ask. You want to transfer? Not having this conversation over text. Bring your parents in, come see the school, take a look at like he just does not, so I can appreciate that about him because I think he's kind of closet crazy, but at his job he's very.
Is he hard to stop talking to? Like from the sense of like, hey, I'm going to break off. But like if you're on the phone with him, is it hard to hang up?
Whenever I'm at school, he's the last person I go see because he'll take the longest.
So what's funny about that is I kind of got that when I called him because we were only on the phone for like roughly 2 minutes, just going back and forth explaining some things. But it's almost like he didn't want to let me go.
And
I'm like,
I'm telling.
I'm like, how long are we gonna talk?
The longer I do this, and I've only been, I only know of really one school. No, I'm not even gonna say this. 99% of the time, successful athletic schools need a super strong AD.
No question.
So
no question.
Now
good leadership everywhere.
So it's like I have seen some schools defy odds.
And you have to be the bad guy. You have to be okay with.
And
being
I've
the bad
also
guy.
seen really, really good athletic directors whose schools may not be indicative of what I think his or her prowess is in terms of leadership too. Sometimes you just don't have it. But yeah, TK, he's a stud. He's a golfer too. Get him out on the course. It's all he does in his free time.
Say less. How about the one who's the coach or teacher at? Is it at Westside? Maybe not. I could be wrong. I just saw the story on KETV about the Golden Tee coach.
Oh, that's my man Greenwalsh.
Where does he? Or is he a principal somewhere?
So he's at South
AP. Okay.
But I originally met him at North, and yeah, then he went over to Bryan. I
want to play Golden Tee with him. I play that all the time when I go to sports bars.
All bias aside, he's one of the greatest people in the profession. He always has hard jobs. He's a fantastic person. He was my guy that he didn't teach me. I basically asked, and he would tell me how to figure out wild card points and playoff standings. He could predict playoffs and he'd give me like 9 options on like a spreadsheet. Hey, it's week 7. If this and this happens, most likely, least likely. He was lights out. Now, since this was like 2013, 2014. Now, since then, there's a couple of other guys that are really, really good. Fo Woodard is probably the next best. Like those guys. But Greenwalsh is amazing, and I just love the story because he started playing to keep himself busy when he lost his dad.
Yeah, that was cool.
So
really cool.
and he is truly a super soft spot. Like I try not to get. He's a great dude. He's a great dude.
I hope he goes out and wins that $25K.
I can't believe you can make that kind of money for playing a game.
He goes, worst case, I make $500, and he's in Vegas, right?
He does. I would like to pit that against his personality because he's super buttoned up.
Going to Vegas?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Greenwalsh in Vegas would be like me being in.
How about this actually being like a purse though? For like if we were watching a PGA Tour event and you factor down the purse, like it's the same for Golden Tee.
Did you read the comments section?
No, I chose not to.
Our former head coach was getting roasted as a guy that I don't know, fact or fiction, like to play Golden Tee. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Coach Frost reference in there. But anywho,
Shane, what's in your cooler over there?
He has no idea.
Your mom.
Oh. Hang on a minute.
Just uncalled for.
Out of nowhere. No snark today. I mean, maybe a little bit with the movies, but he's.
Oh yeah,
but he came at me first.
You guys did get into it.
He came at me first.
Yeah.
So
it took you your whole life.
So now he comes
No,
out.
that's just 28 years.
I'm talking.
That's not the whole life, is it?
Now he's mad.
Are you mad?
Now
Here we
he
go.
goes out the your mom joke.
Well, I didn't. I mean, what do you want me to say? What's in my cooler? So I like ice.
What are we about to do? Play the Brian Christopherson Open or?
So let me see what else could be in my.
Apparently, all my buddies that are admins love Golden Tee.
Golden Tee's fun.
I can't see this guy playing Golden Tee.
Should I be saying
he was just on the real course
Wait till
yesterday?
you play, you'd be like, okay, now I'm kind of
that's the one you spin the ball. Yeah. I don't know.
So I got a 9-pack in my cooler.
Here we go. I can't believe he plays Golden Tee.
I can't believe you threw your mom joke out about the cooler.
Especially after what I just said about her off air. Right? I was like, yeah, she's, like,
guava.
Yeah, guava. Shane, play the goddamn game before you get killed. I'm just saying, I feel the tension between us. It's like jumping over my head. You're going to choke you? It's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to look up
Dude, he calls my mom by name. Yeah. He's childish. It's okay.
Doesn't mean I can't be mad.
Yeah, we love your mom.
It happens when you're under 5 foot.
Time now for the Sports Six Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew. the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
Who shared that story? Was it Ellie French?
Which one?
The one about Golden Teeth.
Oh yeah, just go back to the Twitter deal.
I was trying to find it, but
I'll find it for you. I didn't screenshot it or anything. I just was chuckling. I was like, Nebraska fans are the truth.
all right, Jane.
You gonna be all right?
Oh, you don't.
All right, Jane. Oh, I got to do the ad.
Why do I feel like this is all my fault?
Because you got him shook. Drew Down is like, he just said 20 minutes ago how close he is to his mom. Like, were you not listening off air?
No.
Okay, anyway. I do need a beer after this. And maybe I'll
Did
go.
he miss that whole 5-minute conversation we had?
I think he did. I
Well,
don't know,
you know
he's
he
probably
does.
walking outside.
You know he doesn't listen
doing
to
his
us.
path of vape, and then he comes back in, sits back down.
Hey, Amazing Daniel, who you said you never think is funny, he's on you again. He said, as much crap as we give Shane, toughen up, Buttercup.
Where's he at?
He's on Twitter. You know D is real tight.
Hang tight. Shane starts this. He starts everything. So that's why he takes a lot of it. He starts it all. What you guys don't hear, Shane is talking about off the air.
What are you talking about?
He comes at us all
Now
the time.
Daniel's got you pissed too. Hey, simmer down. I keep telling you, Dan, he's crazy. He's got to take him.
I need a suppressant. Somebody get me a can of the tropical ale.
You want the guava?
Yeah, please give me
Give
some
me
guava.
the guava.
Give me some guava.
You gonna be all right?
I will eventually. Give me the can opener tropical ale. It's the new beer at Zipline. You can find it all at all locations. Okay, let's do this before I get really mad.
Question number 1.
All right. Question number 1.
Hold on. Okay. Read, man. Read.
Bill in Omaha.
What's up, Bill?
Who's more inclined to stay with their team, Damian Lillard or James Harden?
Interesting. Brown.
Is neither a choice? I'll go with Lillard.
See, I'd go with James. And the reason for that is I think Lillard's been just checked out for so long now with Portland, that is, that it almost feels like
Foregone conclusion.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Are divorce papers filed? Like, are they just waiting for it to get stamped?
Yeah, seems that way.
And with James Harden, at least he has Joel Embiid on his side. Like, hey, I want to play with you. I want you to be with me again this year. So if I could guess, I'd go with Harden. But, man, there's a lot of drama there, too.
I'll take Lillard. Remember I just told you Fremont Fred is crazy?
Mm-hmm.
He's killing the show now.
Good Lord. Somebody awoke.
I told you.
Bear awoke.
Listen, go out and play golf with Fred. They have a couple of zip lines. You may not make it to work the next day. He's
I have to do that on a Saturday.
I don't know. Maybe too popular. Shane, question number 2. Let's pretend like you can read.
I can't read.
I can't read.
I can't read.
Question number 2.
Huskers game day. This prompt on Twitter earlier this week. What college football teams do you not go out of your way to root for, but have a soft spot for? Teams you don't mind winning on Saturday. I want to change that prompt. Turn it to baseball. What MLB team do you not go out of your way to root for, but have a soft spot for?
Baseball's easy. I'd say the Orioles. I don't go out of my way. I don't go out of my way to root for them, but I want them to do well.
Best interest for them. Mm-hmm.
College football.
Notice how you said American League, though. Like, that's where I would go too.
Yeah, get out of your
get out of my own league.
Yeah.
Because I'd go with the A's. I like seeing the A's do well. When they had Chapman and Olsen, like, it was really fun watching them make that playoff push. But who knows what's going to happen with that
A
organization.
college football team I don't openly root for, but I don't mind seeing doing well.
Because this question's good for you too, because USC doesn't count.
So there's a handful. Like I would say, like if I have a 5, None of them are my favorite except for Nebraska. USC would be 1A.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else I just kind of like. So that would be Nebraska, SC, Georgia, North Carolina. And that's probably it. Maybe Miami.
Right. Florida State for me.
So who would I not go out of my way for? So it can't be one of those teams.
Like, I couldn't say Florida State because I used to love them in high school.
I'll give you one that I hope does well.
I think I have one too.
Probably Iowa State.
I chose a Big 12 team as well.
Probably.
But I
Iowa
love
State.
Matt Campbell.
I'm Team Campbell too.
So that's a really good one.
You're gonna say K-State.
That's who I would have said.
Yeah.
But I would say Iowa State too, just because of Matt Campbell. I know Deckers personally, so I like him and I root for him. So I like seeing them do well, but I wouldn't say like, oh, on Saturday I have to turn on the Iowa State
I
game.
will say this: in watching him throw, at no point when he releases a football do I ever think it's gonna be complete. He throws a 96-mile-an-hour two-seamer with a run.
He was a pitcher.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Everything is hot and hard. I'm like, Semadonna.
I hope he found his touch this year.
Yeah.
I'd like to see
I'd
like to see Iowa State.
I would
do well.
probably say Iowa State.
Question number 3.
Huskers recruiting in the month of June alone puts them ahead of all Big Ten West teams for the class of 2024.
Yep.
Right on the tail, though, is Purdue. What do you make of how they've compiled their recruiting roster in Walter's first year? Did anyone ever expect it to look this good?
I'd say no. I would say the expectation was no.
And I'm kind of I'm
Hesitant to say that they're as good as they are,
because I want to see, like right now it's about about the volume,
and that adds to the grand
so
total.
I'll wait and see.
Mhm.
But I mean,
Because that was the thing with Alabama for a while. They were at 25, and well, it's just because they didn't have as many recruits.
but he's right though. I didn't see the run coming.
Mhm.
But I do, especially locally though. I do know. I can admire the way they went about handling their business. They weren't going to get played. They weren't going to get strung along.
And I'll tell you what, last year's success played into where they are today in recruiting.
I did
But-
not see Nebraska's June coming.
But this is a big but, because I'm going to try and trust national media here, like those that come out with a bunch of preseason articles and things. Everybody has Ryan Walters at the bottom. I mean, they're supposed to be the worst team in the Big Ten this year. So is 24 as great as people are talking it up to be with this season's expectations? That's what I'm in wait and see.
He
mode
has
on.
some charisma.
And I think they'll be better than the last team. That's just
I don't
me.
know, man. That Purdue the last 2 years, they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And who's their quarterback again?
No,
It's a guy I liked for a long time in Hudson Card.
Maybe the best pickup. Iowa will have something to say about that, but I mean, and so will Wisconsin. But some pretty good transfers.
Question number 4.
You have to bring one friend to play a round of 18. Okay. Now they can't know the details, but if he shoots over 100, you get $5 million. Who are you bringing?
Troy Dumas.
My soon-to-be brother-in-law.
Troy Dumas. Fun. We get along exceptionally well. We think a lot alike.
But he's shooting over 100.
And he's not gonna be annoying while he's doing it. He barely talks. So he's gonna grind. He's competitive, so he'll stay with it. And he'd be fun to split the money with. Plus he's taken care of me his whole life.
See, I just know I'm getting $5 million if I'm taking my soon-to-be brother-in-law. That's my only thing there.
He's left-hand. He's just fun.
Yeah. And it would be good for me to get an opportunity for 4 hours to just talk with me and him.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
I would take that. I would take that too. I would take that with me too. I was mad at him. He brought his son to camp, and he didn't tell me he was coming, but he had to sneak in. He was only here 20 hours. But I would take him. Read, man. You looking at this?
Question number 5.
I'm just eyeing him up from a distance.
I'm not eyeing you up because I can't see you.
I can't see.
Tim in St. Louis, say you
St.
were
Louis.
Yeah. Say you were playing a video game and you were building a Jeff Sims, my player, but he could only possess 3 out of these 7 traits: accuracy, anticipation, footwork, pocket presence, athleticism, decision making, or mental toughness. Which would you choose as non-negotiable traits that make him successful for this year's Nebraska team?
So there's accuracy,
Mental toughness,
Anticipation.
accuracy, and
footwork, pocket presence, athleticism. Decision making would
Yep.
be one for me.
give me decision making, mental toughness, and accuracy.
Decision making, accuracy, and mental toughness is a good one. But if I
Dude, he's
change
got
it
to
up
deal
a
with
little bit,
He's got to deal with Satterfield.
right? If I'm going to try to change it up a little bit, though, I'll go with anticipation, like how he performs under pressure. Can he anticipate a throw?
Get it out of his hands on that little skinny.
Kind of falls into the same realm as accuracy, but if you combine those two, that would be a deadly combo.
Yeah.
And then if you throw in decision making, I mean, maybe decision making plays into mental toughness a little bit, so I get that. I like those 3. I'll stay there.
Question number 6.
We really gonna get through this? Holy smokes.
Couldn't believe it. Because we started this at like 9:10.
And you were, we took us a
Well,
while.
you went on forever to get that ad in.
Here we go. It's a long 9 o'clock hour. Read the question.
I can't now. I'm laughing.
Shoot.
Which endless sports debate topic listed should never be brought up again?
Shane here today.
The validity of preseason.
Wait, the what? Time out. Time out. The what?
The guava of preseason polls.
Did he say validity?
Validity. It's a validity.
Are you trying to say validity?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? I don't
validity.
know.
Yeah, the validity of preseason polls. That's what I said.
Okay.
Rewind the tape.
Okay. The validity.
The best college team. Okay. Preseason polls. The best college team could be the worst NFL, or people care way.
I don't even know what the question is.
Too much about sports.
What's the question?
Which endless sports debate topic should never be brought up again?
Okay. Now, what are my choices?
The validity.
Stop.
The validity of preseason polls. The best college team could beat the worst NFL team. Or people care way too much about sports.
The college pro. Never happens.
That would never in a million years.
Georgia would get beat by 40 by the
Bears.
Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Or the Bears. 40.
And you know why that is? Because the best players in the world are on these teams.
Yeah.
There's only one of them.
40.
I also hate the people talk way too much about sports debate. That people, a lot of individuals I know in my life say, you talk way too much about sports. I'm like, well, that is my job. And I get paid to do it.
Go be around somebody else. That's what I tell them.
Matt Reynolds up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
Do you need some milk? I had my milk at the break. I'm good.
the comments section. So I'm trying to read Amazing. If I'm reading Amazing Daniel's word right, he said validity.
That actually sounds right.
Validity.
Validity.
I'm just trying to. I wonder how Amazing Daniel spelled it.
Ken Shane, the quiet assassin, dropping bombs.
Dude, he just does that
Yeah,
sometimes.
that is Shane. That's our Shane.
We got a call. Shane, are you gonna punch up Tim?
Yeah, let's do this here.
All right, let's say hi to Tim.
Tim, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Tim, how are you?
I'm good. Is this Damon?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. How are you, Damon?
I'm
How you
good.
doing?
Wait, Coach, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm just putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
How are you?
Who do I have? Andrew and Damon.
You got it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, hey, good to hear from you. Good to hear your voice here, but I listen every morning. So
I-
I'm really
Oh,
glad.
we
I appreciate
appreciate
that.
Love your show.
Thank you.
Love your
Thank you.
show.
Thank you.
I'd rather listen to you guys talking good sports than any, and just you do good stuff. So
We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
you bet. You bet.
What's on?
Hey, I
your-
just
what's-
called because, Damon, I heard you ask about the guys at the 4 spot for Creighton, and
Yeah.
and you mentioned Jason Green, but then
then there wasn't any reply about Jason. I think Ravi was talking about he didn't
Trout.
say anything.
Yeah,
Jason's
Miller.
Yeah, Trout, Miller. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to give Jason some props because I think one thing that goes overlooked is what a great, well, there's a lot of great qualities, but great defender, great rebounder,
Yes.
and smart player who works so hard, and his offense is plenty full of variety, things he can do that I think he'll do a good job.
So Coach, it's interesting. I was at I think it was the Pink Out game, and I talked to Jason's parents. They under the tunnel, and Coach Mack was coming out about a couple minutes later, and I think he saw me talking to the Greens, and so I was asking him about Jason, and without hesitation, Coach Mack said he's going to be a good player for us. Like he didn't even, it wasn't in front of their parents; they had already walked off, but he just was doubling down on your sentiment that he said he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, good. Well, I talked to Jason about 2 weeks ago at the Creighton camp. My grandson was there, and I hung around just a lot to talk to Jason, and he felt really good about things. And, I said, are you playing the three also? He said, yeah, he said they're pretty interchangeable. So he kind of play a couple spots, but I imagine a lot of those guys can do that.
He was the best weak side rebounder I'd ever seen. The best help side defender I'd seen in probably the last 10 years. And he can actually shoot it.
He can shoot it. He just didn't shoot it that much from outside in high school, but hell, he can bury threes and hit a jump shot off the dribble. And, he's such a cerebral player too. I mean, he's constantly seeing things like one play ahead of time. Senior year when everybody had graduated, and now he's truly the guy that's your leader, along with, we had a great season from David Harmon and some other guys, but Jason was great at being a gel guy, just bringing everybody together, talking to them, a lot of good stuff.
I almost wonder if his time on the bench too has helped that. Like his time on the bench last year with Creighton in regards to that cerebral point that you're talking about and seeing the game well from a different perspective. I almost wonder if that helps him a ton moving forward.
I think so for sure. I mean, that's a lot of experience in 1 year. All those games, the places you go, and redshirting's tough,
It is.
I think that year you're so far behind and learning things. Now he's got a lot under his belt.
The cool thing, Coach, just because I know I've watched you forever, you appreciate IQ. So the two attributes we described at first, weak side rebounding and help defense, you have to understand what everybody else is doing to be good at those couple of things, right? Because those are feel things. Those are knowing the game kind of things.
Yeah, that's right. And you were talking about guys and how they can play in the switching defense. He can do all that. He can be on the ball, or the guy guarding the pick, switching. He could guard. I think every position on the floor, to be honest, didn't need it.
Coach,
he's a good one.
Fantastic stuff. You call anytime.
We appreciate the call.
You get the fluorescent green light, Coach.
Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Happy Thursday, Coach.
That is a legend in Tim Cannon. Just
great call.
Just breaking us off a call.
And we'll transition now to the person we teased going into the break. That is Matt Reynolds, president of NXT Pro Hoops at NXT Pro Hoops on Twitter. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Hey, we're good. How are you?
Doing good.
Matt, take me through, I'm going to jump right into it. Take me through the Elite Eight event in Omaha this weekend and what people can expect, because it's going to be some pretty good basketball.
Yeah, we're excited about it. The Next Pro is the company. The league that we have has two divisions. The top division is called Pro 16, and the second division is called Next. And we've really developed something that I think people have found to be innovative and cool. But it starts at the top with, we've got 13 guys ranked in the top 100 in the country. They're going to be in Omaha, Nebraska this week. including a top 5 player and 3 5-stars. So we've got some really good talent coming in. Obviously some great 4-stars, 3-stars, and beyond that. But you got to start with the top guys because I think we got a couple future pros, maybe even more, depending on some of our younger guys that are going to be here this weekend.
It's interesting. I think the thing that's most impressive is just kind of being on the grassroots of this partnership. Obviously, Matt Cumro is a guy that I believe a lot in. You guys casting this vision to get this to come together relatively quickly in a competitive market to get to where this is. You may be selling yourself short. I know you're just not going to get here and say good things about you, but you guys pulling this off from a competitive level in year one has been nothing short of impressive. And I mean that.
Well, I appreciate that. We've been fortunate. Good Lord's been good to us, and we've had a great year. So it's been fun. And I think from the league side of it as well, you look at this weekend in particular. I'm really interested to see who's going to come out on top. I mean, we got a team in one family that's out of Florida. That's if we were in Vegas, which our staff likes to make little Vegas odds on games.
Yeah, they're probably the favorite.
They're definitely the favorite. Yeah, they definitely got to be the favorite
because they only have the one loss.
Yeah, they only have the one loss, but we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's like similar to a March Madness style where you get to this point, and I actually think it's probably better for them that they have the one loss because it's really hard to go undefeated in anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be exciting, and for the hometown crowd, there's 2 Nebraska teams in it.
Right.
Which I'll be honest, I did not expect.
Yeah, that's
I did
impressive.
not expect it all. I thought 1 might be there, but to have 2 in it, I think is a really cool deal. And the Omaha team, Omaha Elite, they
have their hands full with Nick.
Hey, that's a tough side of the bracket for them. But with Coach Archie and guys like Dale Ron Thomas and that team, they play so hard, right? I think it's kind of an underappreciated attribute from Omaha Elite.
Ball pressure will be big in this one.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they play extremely hard, and they're going to have their hands full. Nick Hamania is the player you're referring to, who I think he's got a chance to really be something long term. He's a top 50 kid in the country, and just grows by the day. He's out of Los Angeles. So that's the other thing. You look at the 8 teams, they're from all over. You got 1 from Florida, 2 from Nebraska, a California team, a Vegas team, an Idaho team. I guess as I'm saying this all, we got a lot of West Coast and Oklahoma teams.
Yeah,
so
with the Hawks.
It is going to be cool just to see the different and everybody's got a different style. You guys know this. Nebraska teams play one way. East Coast teams play another way. There's kind of a bunch of clashing styles that we're going to see in this thing.
And the cool thing, Matty, is at the field house this weekend, even the 2 Nebraska teams, Elite plays much different than Supreme. Supreme has the high-level shooters, the sharpshooters. Omaha Elite, downhill guys, defensive pressure. Like, the versatility is pretty cool. Where do we need to be this weekend, Matt?
Yeah, come on by. We are at Iowa West Fieldhouse. The Elite 8 starts Saturday morning, Final 4 is Saturday night, and the championship's 11:30 on Sunday.
Hey, anytime you want to break yourself a call, we'll always learn, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
It's Matt Reynolds, president of Next Pro Hoops, NXT Pro Hoops on Twitter. NIU football up next. We're talking to Bill Baker.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to the show as we close this thing down on a Thursday. We are happily joined by Bill Baker, play-by-play voice for the NIU Huskies. We've been doing a schedule breakdown every day this week so far. At least we've tried, and we've made it to week 3 now, and that's against the NIU Huskies, a team that DB is a little probably.
They make me nervous.
Yeah, I don't want to say on the fence about when it comes to this matchup, but yeah, it's a team that doesn't settle well in your stomach.
No. And I'll tell you why as we welcome in Bill. Bill, good morning. How are you?
Well, Andrew, Damon, good morning to you, and good morning, Omaha. And I want to tell you, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It kind of upsets your stomach a little bit when you have to look at NIU in the schedule.
Yeah,
especially with so many unknowns.
Yeah, full disclosure, right? One of your former coaches, Dan Jackson, great friend of mine. Watched this program kind of get built from the start with Coach Hammock. Coach Hammock's a guy I got a ton of respect for because I know how he recruits, because he's been in our area a ton. And I coach at Westside where you have Mr. Haberman, and I know a lot about kind of the intricacies. I just was in DeKalb a couple of weeks ago heading to Chicago. So this matchup on paper may be kind of a yawner, but when I get inside the numbers of a veteran team, you got a quarterback that's played here before in Lincoln. I'm not like, doom and gloom, but I'm not chalking that one up as some easy win either.
It's really tough to put a finger on at this point, and the reason that you guys are probably going to shake your heads with this, the transfer portal has done so much. It's changed the face of college football. I think it's changed the face of every program, be it mid-major, be it high major, be it elite. Alabama has issues with the portal, and I was just going over a couple of things they posted our roster. I think maybe it was last week, and I wrote it down. I think it's 53 new people out of a roster of right around 100. 53 new people. Now, all of them didn't come through the portal. Some were recruited, but still 53. And you got 40-some that have left either through the portal, just regular transition, or maybe graduation. So there are a lot of questions as to just what these people bring and what we've lost in this situation. But you mentioned the quarterback that who's played there before. That's, of course, Rocky Lombardi. He's the Michigan State transfer who came into DeKalb on the heels of a 0-6 season, that COVID season, and won the Mid-American Conference Championship and probably should have won the bowl game down in Orlando. But that's all history. He is back. He played last year. got to the Vanderbilt game and went to slide at the end of a run, and I think his cleat may have caught a piece of the turf. We never get officially what an injury is, but I'm just speculating on that thing. And I think he played maybe in one other game after that and was out for the rest of the season. His backup was injured a couple of games into his tenure. We wound up the last 2 or 3 games of the year starting a walk-on, basically. Just a walk-on. He came to us as a true freshman, gave up a lot of points, didn't score that many points. But what they did gain, guys, was a boatload of experience, both in the offensive line, the defensive secondary. I mean, 2 really big keys, I think, to any football team. So we'll see what happens with this thing. There are a lot of familiar names. These guys, a lot of these guys have won before on a decent-sized stage. So it's it's not a yawner by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be an interesting football game.
2 things that kind of concern me, 2 of your better players with Logan and Nolan both play up front along that offensive line. And you have some experience at the quarterback spot with Lombardi. Like that offensive line and steady play at quarterback is typically portable.
Very true. And the other thing to go along with that is with Lombardi, you've got to have somebody to throw the football to. And he had wideouts last year, and some of them did a remarkable job seeing, I think 4 different quarterbacks over the span of a 12-game season. But the number 1 guy in the room when it comes to receiving the football never stepped on the field. That's Trayvon Rudolph. And he was all MAC as a freshman. Dinged himself up in the preseason. I think it was during the month of August, maybe the first or second week of practice, and never, ever got onto the field. And he's a weapon. Between him and Rocky Lombardi, I mean, they can, in my mind, they can pretty much put the football wherever they want to put the football on the scope of the field and have some success with that. And then you've got the running back game too. You got to give it. And NIU is known as running back university. You've got a guy by the name of Ontario Brown, who is, I think, in his 3rd season now with NIU. And then the guy right after him is a guy that you guys probably know a little bit about, and Gavin Williams is the transfer
from Iowa.
That's come over.
Yeah, so
you got a pretty good one too, and we got I think half a dozen other guys that have come in, either via the portal or via recruiting in that running back room. A lot of questions. You love to look at spring ball. You love to try to draw conclusions from spring ball, but I've always said this. I've done this 44 years, and I remember my first spring practice, and the guy's name was Bill Mallory. He was our head coach.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to him after that very first practice that he went through at Northern. And, we're talking about positives and what you need to do. And he said, Bill, remember one thing about spring ball. If the offense has a great day, it's against your defense. If the defense has a great day, it's against your offense. So what do you take out of that?
So line play, Bill, I'm going to extend that past the offensive line here. And even on the defensive line, you had a good combination at the tackle position. Thomas was the best playmaker for the team last year. But the stat that stuck out to me over anything else was being +4 in the turnover margin. This team had plenty of takeaways to go along with the great offensive line that, let's just say this. They didn't allow there was no offensive line in the MAC that allowed fewer sacks than them.
Nope, and they were, I think, maybe top 5 of the country. The number escapes me completely, but yeah, and that's what Thomas Hennick builds his program on. I mean, from the ground up when he got to Northern, and he didn't have to do a lot of rebuilding at Northern. He came in, he inherited a pretty nice football team, to be perfectly honest with you, and a team with that actually the success, you go all the way back, began under Joe Novak, and then guys like Jerry Kill, who was spent a lot of time in the Big Ten. I think he's at New Mexico State now, if I'm not mistaken. But you just go on and on from there. But Hammock, the first thing he said is, we build from the inside out. We're going to build into the trenches. That's where football games are won and lost. He says that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to play a complementary football around those guys, the offense and the defense. But it's got to start with those guys on the front line. And pretty much he's been true to his word.
What do you think the real litmus test is if you're just kind of evaluating? Maybe it's outside of wins and losses. Maybe it is actual wins and losses. But listen, at BC and at Nebraska are no small feats. And that's before you get into a tough conference and you see the likes of a Toledo. How does the non-con look for you in terms of an evaluation?
Well, a lot of these guys that we are going to bring with us played at Georgia Tech a couple of years ago on opening night.
Oh, yeah.
And won that game 22-21 as the memory serves and everything. So going to the Boston College, I take nothing away from Boston College, but, we've been there before. It's someplace we played. None of these guys have seen it, but we've been on that kind of a stage. None of these guys were at Nebraska several years back when Northern pulled out a victory at that place for the 90-some thousand people. So there's history, there's talk of the Boneyard, there's tradition, and Thomas Hammock uses all of that. Thomas Hammock, he creates an atmosphere. It's an atmosphere of inclusion. It's an atmosphere of history, of tradition, and he wants people, and this starts at the recruiting process. He wants people that want to be NIU Huskies, and he wants them to know what they're getting into. And most importantly, he wants them to know what's expected of them over the next 4 or 5 years. And by bringing that history into it, it brings in, knowledge. It brings in, I think, a pretty good air of confidence with these guys. Certainly the expectation, you want to rise to the challenge that he is going to lay down. So here we go.
Bill,
It'll be fun.
Bill, you mentioned Rudolph coming back this year, and those injuries were a big factor for this NIU group last year. But is there enough comfortable depth to feel good about not taking steps back as a team? And what areas do you think the Huskies have the deepest room?
Well, I think number one, in terms of taking steps back, guys, we were 3-9 last year.
Yeah.
And with Rocky Lombardi back and Trayvon Rudolph and some of the people we have in the wide receivers room as well as the running backs room, I don't think NIU is going to take any step back this year. I fully expect a bowl game. I expect an appearance in some bowl somewhere, and that means at least 6 wins, which would mean doubling everything. The deepest room, boy, I tell you now, I really like our defensive secondary. The guy like C.J. Brown and
he's a hawk at the safety spot.
Yeah.
You guys got a nice tandem back there.
Yeah, the corners are where it gets a little dicey.
And we had a lot of people get a lot of minutes, a lot of snaps, in the defensive secondary last year. Some because of injuries, some because they just beat some people out, here and there. So yeah, that's the room I really like. Linebackers, we lost a good guy to Kentucky, and that would have been number 2 on my list right now. I'm not.
Was that Rayner?
The offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 70 guys on that offensive line, who can start at a lot of Mid-American Conference institutions elsewhere in the country, as well. They've done a great job at keeping their talent at the offensive line. And I'm expounding here, but there's quarterbacking. You've got the experience, and you've got the championship aura, I guess I want to say, that surrounds Rocky Lombardi because of that MAC championship. And then you've got a couple of guys that have spent some time backing him up and have grown with the program for the past couple of 3 years. So, all said and done, it's a very well-rounded football team. But to answer your question, defensive secondary is what I like.
Good to know, Bill Baker. We appreciate your time this morning.
Appreciate the time and insight, Bill.
Thanks so much, and we hope to maybe do this
Yeah,
again
we'll
when it gets
catch you
closer
game
to the
week.
game.
Anytime, guys. I love Omaha. One of my favorite steak places in all the country is in Omaha, so we'll be in town.
All right. Bill Baker, play-by-play voice for the NIU Huskies. Which one do you think it is? Charleston's? Fleming's?
Hard not to be excited when you're the play-by-play guy. I don't know if they're that good.
Or maybe it's just Omaha Steaks.
But,
he just takes them home.
Northern Illinois has my attention.
We will be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. More CNC then.